Writing a paper, Charles. You and I should know about that.
Well, I think you've done a few, and I've done a few in my time, and we've seen an awful lot.
And we've seen hundreds, thousands.
As editor-in-chief of International Journal of Food Science and Technology, we have 2,000 or 3,000 a year that we go through, don't we? So
yeah.
What stands out when you actually look at a paper? If you were starting and if you were giving advice to an early career researcher,
what would I say to them?
Yeah.
I think I would start off by saying, make sure you tell a story. Make it interesting. You know, you have a prejudiced view that scientific communication is dry. It doesn't have to be like that.
But when I was younger, so much younger than I am today, when I started out, my papers were very much sort of, this is the results, this is the experiment, and this is the conclusion. Nothing on top of that. It was all quite dry. But I think I've seen how we need to tell the story a lot more.
You need to tell the story a little bit more, and I think that's where, how should we say, the writing process has developed. Of course there's results, of course there's discussion and conclusion. That's the format that we write in. And you're not going to go down the lines of Once Upon a Time. But you can still describe your results in a way in which it's entertaining to read. And as you know, we've seen papers that do that very, very well. We also see papers that don't quite manage it. But once you've got your actual data and you're ready to go, where would you start?
Well, I would start by actually using my whiteboard in my office and drawing the graphs and trying to work out where all the data fits together to look at the links. Then I would go and probably start with the materials and methods.
Right, and the reason I think that's a good approach is that materials and methods, that's fact.
Yeah.
You know, how do you actually crack the nut to get started? You start with a blank page and you're trying to type. If you start on the materials and methods, you know what you've used and you know what you've done.
And for heaven's sake, one thing that I've learnt now is that instead of writing materials and methods out sort of word by word, if you're using a standard method, refer to that standard method.
Absolutely.
And don't copy and paste all the time.
No. I mean, make it easy for yourself and make it easy for the reader.
Keep it shorter.
Yeah, shorter is usually better.
Yeah.
And then once you've got your materials and methods, you talked about your whiteboard. I was a little bit different. I would print out my graphs in the old days and actually lay them out in front of me on a jigsaw table. And then say, right, where do I need the graphs that I need to have to tell my story? And I might have 10, I might have 15. That's probably too much. So you find out, where can I condense or merge these graphs, or where can I actually discard?
Okay, that little bit of critical evaluation that you need in terms of refining the story.
That's a must.
Okay.
I mean, you are the author, but you're also your own editor.
Yeah.
You have that responsibility. You can also be economical with your data. You don't need to tell everything. If something that you've got and you've got a perfectly good graph but it does not contribute to your story, it doesn't need to go in.
Well, you can save it for a presentation or something like that.
Or paper 2.
Yeah, or paper 2.
Right? So once you've got the actual framework of the graphs that you need to have, then you've got an outline of what figure 1 and figure 2 and figure 3 are going to say.
Yeah.
Then you're in a position to say, I can begin to write.
So that's the results and discussion section?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then from there, well, you've just described your results, you've discussed your results, now you can actually conclude. What did my results actually show?
And then do you go back and write the introduction because you've worked out what your results show, and then you can look at the scientific evidence to discuss sort of where that evolution of the research has gone?
Exactly, it sounds back to front.
Yeah.
But the introduction is usually one of the last things that you write. Not because you've now written the conclusion and you can introduce it, but the field that you may be working in could be quite large. So if you start with the introduction, you might be introducing stuff that's not actually relevant for your story or your small little part of the research that you've carried out.
And also the field is always happening.
It's always
so you
evolving.
Want to bring in that new paper
Yes.
that you've just seen into terms of that introduction, because as an editor-in-chief, I don't like seeing too many papers that are over sort of 10 years old. They're quite nice to have those really empirical data from the very good papers in the past. but you're looking at that newness, that novelty of
Yes.
the research. And so bringing that into your introduction is quite good.
Not just quite good, I would say it's vital.
Yeah.
You need that to actually encourage the reader to think this is new, this is novel, and it actually fits with what I'm doing.
So I have a question here. How many references do you think would be good? Because I get that asked so many times. How many references should I put in my paper?
Enough.
Look, that's not a good enough answer.
That's not a good enough answer. Okay, but seriously, enough. And if you're writing what I'll call an original research article, I don't think you need more than 20, 25, 30.
Yeah.
If you're writing a review article, I would expect you're going to have more, maybe double that. But make sure that the references that you put in there are not just for fill. The references also have to tell part of the story. So if I'm reading a new paper about fibre research, for example, I would expect to see some foundational paper that's gone in there that's maybe 30, 40, 50 years old.
Well, you can put my 1993 paper in.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
Then I would like to see papers that are maybe 10, 12 years old.
Okay.
Just to begin to build the story in.
So you can put my 2013 paper in.
Exactly, so
Yeah.
that you know the story is actually evolving. But then I want to see papers that are within the last 2 to 3 years.
Oh, right. Okay, last week's paper then.
There you go.
Okay.
And if you build that story up, you can actually do that.
And you've got that continuity.
You've got a continuity, you've got a thread, and basically your job as an author is also a guide. You're guiding your reader.
And I think that guiding of the reader comes through when you have to write the abstract, because the abstract in many respects is the most difficult section, because you want to convey everything that you've done in a way that you encourage the reader who's just going to scan the abstract
Yeah.
to delve deeper into your paper.
And the abstract is not a rewrite of the conclusions.
No, no.
It's got to be tighter, it's got to be more succinct, and it actually has to dangle a little bit of a carrot in front of the reader to say, this paper is going to be interesting.
Yeah. So for me, that abstract is purpose, the experimental design, and also the impact, the novelty that's being created.
The impact, not the conclusion.
No.
The impact. And one thing I think we haven't touched on yet is little tricks of the trade when you start to write. When you're going to use an abbreviation,
Oh, don't use too many.
make sure that the abbreviation actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Always write it out in full first and then in brackets afterwards the abbreviation. But only do that if you're going to use that abbreviation more than 3, 4 or 5 times. If you only use it once, don't abbreviate.
And use common sense when you're using abbreviation, because there's so many papers now that you've got abbreviation, and it's so sort of fragmented that you can't understand what the authors are actually saying.
So who's the benefit are the abbreviations for?
Well, yes, it's probably the author in terms of the not repeating the words so many times and typing them out.
Exactly,
yeah.
but that's the wrong answer.
No.
The abbreviations are for the benefit of the reader.
Yes. So make it short, make it simple, make it clear.
Yep, and tell that story.
Okay.
If you follow that recipe, we can't guarantee you'll get published, but you'll have a better chance.
Simple.
Simple. Keep it simple, keep it easy.